The cry of the fox. My missing brother ate my friends in an abandoned Walmart. My family was always a little bit strange. We owned a failing antique shop in my town for as long as I could remember. My father was quite eccentric and collected various knickknacks and assorted artifacts. I saw them mostly as junk and still had no idea how we were staying afloat money-wise, but I never bothered asking. My mother was a quiet, soft-spoken woman who always had a look of sorrow. My father said she hadn't had the best past before we moved here. I was a senior at the time, getting ready to go off to college. Tonight was a very big night for me. I was going out with a girl I had liked since I was a freshman and some of her friends. I hadn't really fit into that crowd, but over the summer I had changed a lot physically and was apparently in some new league where women decided I was desirable. It was my first Halloween actually leaving the house. I had never trick-or-treated when I was younger for various reasons, but I was excited that my parents had let me go out tonight. I heard the horn outside and quickly gave my parents a goodbye before exiting the shop and running out to meet my brand new friends. Margaret was in the back seat of the Jeep, and thankfully she had saved a space for me. I smiled at her as I hopped in, and we gunned it out of there. I dived into a deep talk with her about her current classes and her shitty history teacher, Mr. Abbott. It wasn't until we passed a sign saying, "Exiting Casey County," that I realized how long we had been driving for. "Where are we going?" I asked curiously as we drove down the dark highway. Jonah, one of the guys in the front seat, turned around with a wry smile and answered, "Winslow." "Why the hell are we going there?" "The haunted Walmart." His voice trailed off and my blood ran cold. Everyone in the town had heard the story of that place. It was an abandoned Walmart left to rot on the outskirts of the city. It was a real place, and I had heard ghost stories about it every year since I was a child. Every disappearance or tragedy had been blamed on the place. It was said to be bad luck, but I chalked most of that up to silly small-town superstition. Every small town had some dumb ghost story like it. I didn't like the idea of breaking and entering. I had been a rule follower my entire life. But then again, I didn't want to embarrass myself by seeming like a loser in front of Margaret and her friends. I mean, the place was old and abandoned. The worst that would happen is maybe a warning from the local PD. I figured we might spend a couple minutes max in the place. We arrived at the Walmart around 20 minutes later and found the place fenced off with various construction equipment littering the area. I guess they were in the process of demolishing the place. We parked outside the fences and another car pulled alongside us. Together, we made a group of 9. One of the boys from the other car pulled out wire cutters. His name was Newt, if I remember correctly. He was larger than the rest of us and was easily able to shred through the fence with speed. Softly, I felt Margaret's hand enter mine, and I smiled like a big, dumb idiot. We crossed the fence and made our way into Walmart. The place had allegedly been closed down for over a decade, and it looked that way. Promotional art from old video game collabs littered the front, and pricing stickers with prices that would be considered a steal aged the building far beyond the last 10 years. The front was a mess of appliances and machines piled into a heap that we had to squeeze our way through. The place stunk, the kind of stale, rotten smell that untouched buildings have, almost like bread that is left around much too long. Who knows the last time people had even been into this place? After passing through the heap of electronics, we entered a relatively normal area. Cardboard and trash littered the ground, and clothes racks lay sideways. I was shocked at how dense the area still was. They hadn't even removed many of the products, and clearly looters hadn't stolen much. I watched as Newt dragged his girlfriend away, holding hands and smiling. Slowly, the group separated into groups of 2 or 3, eventually leaving Margaret and I alone. We walked side by side through the old kids section and started a polite conversation. "So, do you have any plans after high school?" she asked me. "Yeah, I'm heading to LA for an art degree." "I never knew you were an artsy type, Hunter." "I don't think you even knew I existed till this year." "Margaret, Don't be silly. We were in the same English class as freshmen. I was shocked she even remembered that. And once again, a big, dumb, idiot smile fell upon my face. Yeah, wow, Mr. Clancy's class? You sat 2 rows ahead of me, remember? I thought you were always a little bit of a geek and raised your hand a little too fast, but it was cute. I will spare the details of the next few minutes, but I will say my first kiss was somewhat magical. The second one was a little sloppy, though. The third had some tongue that I don't think I was ready for at that time. Suddenly, a loud scream rang out. My guts sunk, and I quickly turned in the direction of the noise. I looked to the right of me and yanked a splintered piece of plywood from one of the shelves. I then started slowly making my way in the direction of the sound. I abruptly stopped and looked at Margaret, who looked terrified. I couldn't endanger her like that. I instead started heading my way towards the exit. Margaret was frantically pulling out her phone and calling someone. Whoever it was, they answered right before we arrived at the heap of electronics. Tandy and Newt are missing. We need to find everyone else and get out of here. Stefan is on his way back with Rick. It was a few minutes before the 2 boys arrived. Both looked on edge, and one carried a tiny Swiss Army knife that looked about as lethal as a toothpick. Something was following us on our way here. We didn't get a good look at it. Rick was breathing deeply, bent over. We need to leave now. Have everyone come here and let's get out of here. We don't need to risk anything, I said. Hell no, we need to get the others and get out of here. I'm not leaving my sister behind. Stefan raised his Swiss Army knife, pointing back at the racks. I sighed deeply and looked back at Margaret. I needed to keep her safe, but Stefan was the one with the car and the keys. Fine. Rick goes outside to the cars with Margaret. Stefan, give him your keys. No one is touching my ride. If something happens to us, they need to get out of here and get help. They need those keys. Stefan looked as though he was weighing his options, but he slowly handed his keys to Rick. I turned to Margaret, squeezed her hand, and kissed her cheek. If we are not back in an hour, you call the cops, and then get the hell out of here. No questions. Margaret nodded. She and Rick disappeared into the heap of electronics. I turned back to Stefan and nodded as we made our way towards the aisles. He was fiddling with his phone as we walked, slowly towards what used to be the freezer section. The deeper we went into the building, the darker it became, as the outside light couldn't reach this far. Stefan's phone light lit up, and he pointed it forward. We eventually found our way to a small number of the group, who were huddled together in one of the aisles. One of the girls I recognized, named Felicia, stepped out of the huddle as we came closer. We didn't find anything, but something was following us. We heard it and turned around. I know Tandy was here, Stefan. You guys need to get out of here and back to the cars. Take this and head back. I handed over my wooden weapon. I can't go back. She's my best friend. Felicia looked at us defiantly. All these people were willing to put their lives on the line for this missing girl, Tandy. 3 of us would be better than just 2, especially if there was something or someone following us. I looked at the rest of the group as I weighed my options. You can come with us. The rest of you need to go back and get to safety. We don't need anyone else getting hurt. If something happens, you yell, loud. The 3 remaining people walked away in the direction of the entrance, and I turned to my 2 partners. We need something to defend ourselves with if something's following us. I'm assuming hunting supplies are down deeper in the store. We stay close and we make as little noise as possible. We don't know what's following us. It could be a homeless person or just a wild animal. Neither is ideal. We began making our way to the hunting supplies. The dim light from our phones was our only way of seeing. I heard noises periodically, almost like a chitter, a humming or pitter-patter as well. We eventually made our way to an area that was slick with liquid. More than likely, there was a leak somewhere in the roof. We finally arrived at the hunting supplies and looked around for anything to help us. Eventually, I found a plastic-wrapped hatchet and quickly tore off the wrapping. I knew how shoddy Walmart's products were. I only hoped that it would hold up if something attacked me. I heard a crackle near me, and I turned to see the girl carrying what looked like a walking stick. Stefan had upgraded his Swiss Army knife to an actual hunting knife. We have 20 minutes to find them before we turn back and get the hell out of here. We need to hurry up and... A blood-curdling chorus of screams rang out far ahead of us. I charged forward, racing towards the sound. The screams only grew louder as we got closer. Eventually, we turned a corner down to where the freezers were, and we froze. Standing ahead of us, hunched over a bloody corpse, was a humanoid figure. Its back was towards us, and wet noises could be heard as its hands dug into the corpse's stomach. I could see ahead of the figure, another body was laying there, with a crying girl frantically shaking. I could see ahead of the figure, another body was laying, with a crying girl frantically shaking whoever it was and crying. "Turn the hell around now!" I shouted, raising my hatchet forward at whatever it was that hunched over the dead body. I regretted my decision instantly. Whatever it was, it perked up instantly, and I could see orange fur covering its back. What the hell was this thing? It turned around to face us slowly. It wore an ill-fitted shirt that exposed its stomach, and a pair of worn and tattered pajama pants. It also had some sort of button-up overshirt on as well, which was torn and bloodied. But that wasn't the worst part. Its face was an amalgamation of flesh and fur. Whatever it was, it had patches of what looked like fur-covered animal skin sewn to its face. It was disfigured, but it was unmistakably a fox's head. The flesh was discolored and rotting, and the only thing human left was two deep, dark eyes staring into us. It leaned down on all fours and tried yelping, but all that came out was a gurgle. I quickly darted to the side to avoid whatever it was, but the girl beside me was not as lucky. The thing barreled into the girl and toppled her to the ground. I saw its fists pound into her face and heard the crack of her skull. I needed to get out of here and fast. I quickly yanked Stefan to his feet and ran forward past the first dead body and stopped near the girl who was on her knees over a badly injured boy. It was Tandy, and she was bawling her eyes out over who I assumed to be Newt. "We need to go now!" I yanked her forward, but she refused to listen. I looked back over at the thing, and it was slowly getting up again from the girl's body. I saw her head looked like crushed watermelon. Blood and brain matter spilled everywhere. I didn't bother wasting my time, and I charged forward, leaving Tandy behind. I wasn't gonna get myself killed. Stefan didn't follow me, but I didn't care at that point, as I heard the sounds of the thing grunting and smacking its feet into the floor, charging at the trio. I heard the wet noises and pained screams as I left the scene. I didn't realize I was lost until I somehow found myself standing in front of a passage to the Walmart storage area. I pushed the door open, hoping I could find a back exit. While searching for said exit, I heard the door open and slam shut again. It was that thing. I knew it had found me. I quickly started climbing the large shelves to gain height on the creature. The shelves were massive and ascended high into the ceiling. I moved as quietly as I could, swearing the creature was following me. Finally, I reached the top and lay down to catch my breath. I heard something on the ground below and quickly looked down to see someone standing between the shelves. "Hello?" the person whispered, and I quickly recognized it was Jonah, one of the people who was supposed to return to the cars. I turned over, hollering down, "I thought that was that thing! I was looking for a back exit!" I began to slowly make my way back down, thankful that it was one of us. "No, I got separated after it attacked us on her way back." I heard a loud thump and looked down to see the thing had smacked into Jonah and was now hunched over him. Fuck. I reached up to the shelves to once again ascend, but I lost my grip and leaned back. It was almost slow motion as I fell. It felt like ages as my limp body writhed in the air. I landed on my side with a sickening crack as I felt something painful snap in my arm. It was done, and I knew I was going to die. That thing would attack me after it was done with Jonah. I could hear Jonah's cries grow weaker and weaker by the second, as the sickening noises of guts being torn out filled my ears. I looked weakly to my side and tried forcing myself to my feet. I fell back down almost immediately. I was sure I had hurt my leg as well. I looked over and I saw I had fallen close to a large bay door. A dusty button was right next to it. My heart fluttered with hope. I slowly crawled over to the door as I heard Jonah's cries go silent, and the creature's yips and growls continued. Finally, I reached the door and used my arm to prop myself up. I couldn't reach the button, and I once again tried to get to my feet, but collapsed again. I painfully dug into my side, my hands landing on the hatchet I had slid into my belt. I weakly lifted the weapon, and with as much strength as I could muster, I swung my arm in the air, smashing the dull side of the blade into the button. I heard a roar as the bay door began to open slowly. I was joyous as I turned over and slowly crawled out. I was free. My joy was short-lived as I was dragged backwards. I quickly rolled over, weakly kicking at the creature. It was over. The thing snarled, and this close I could smell the rot and musky odor it exuded. The fur it had sewn to its body was matted with both fresh blood and flecks of crusty, dried-up blood. It had a hunger for humans. It had crudely sewn a snout to its own nose. How could this thing breathe? I could see the inner human mouth of the creature, almost hidden by the rotting and loose teeth of the dead fox's jaw. Its flesh was yellowed and grayed at the sew marks. It had been done shoddily and had to be excruciatingly painful. Its hands clawed at me. Granuled, long nails matted with blood dug into me like talons. The creature's face dipped low into mine, and I turned my face away. Its hot, disgusting breath caused me dry heave. Then suddenly, the thing stopped. Its hands released me as the snout grew deeper into my neck. It was smelling me. I felt the tough, grating fur on my neck. Then it raised its head and stared into me. I saw a glimmer of something in its eyes as it stood and charged out of the building. It hadn't killed me. Why? My fading consciousness didn't give me enough time to formulate an answer. I awoke sometime later in a hospital bed. I saw my arm in a cast, and my head was cloudy. My mother was the first to notice my eyes opening, and she quickly called the nurse. The nurse checked on me and spoke a few words to my mother before my parents both turned back to me. I saw my father's mouth moving, but I focused on only one thing. My mother was playing with a locket on her neck. I had seen it 1,000,000 times before, and I had never bothered to ask about it. I felt myself slip away again, and when I woke up again, I was alone in a dark room. I looked down and saw something on my bedside. It was the locket. I had to look at it. I painfully reached out my arm and grabbed it. I delicately opened it, and my blood ran cold. Inside, there was a photo of my father, my pregnant mother, and a third person I never saw before. He had dark black eyes. It was him. That thing in that Walmart was that boy. I turned the locket over and read the name on the back. John St. John.